wellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, featuring your hosts Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast is how our culture pathologises women's truth.
It's big.
Isn't it? It really is. Before we jump onto that, I'd love to remind you to jump onto nourishingthemother.com.au and on the homepage, scroll on down to the red bar where you can join our tribe and drop in your email. And once a fortnight, we will send you a newsletter with links to everything we've put out in the world. You can pick and choose where you'd love to dive deeper. And then occasionally we send you what we call a love letter. So something a little bit more intimate, a conversation, an epiphany, an awakening that, you know, it's not something we're probably quite so happy to share outside of our intimate tribe. So if you're really ready to jump on and have a bit more nourishing your mother in your world, then please join our tribe, nourishingthemother.com.au. Yes. So, Bridget, I have a story that I would really love to share, and I will share this story with permission from my friend, for this is her story, not mine. But before I share her story, what I want to do is just read, and it's incredibly messy, but I've written this like monologue as I was outside today playing with my daughter, and she was involved in this sensory sand play I'd set up, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to smack this out because it's in my brain.
Yeah.
And off I went. 3 pages later, here I am. Little pages though. So I thought what I might do is start here and read it. And I feel like at the end of that, Bridge, you might have something to say.
Okay.
And we'll go from there.
Sure.
Okay.
It's how we roll. We are just winging it.
I know, it's true. So I started with this. Our body always knows our truth, but our mind and culture can talk us out of it. We're not practiced in listening. We're not handed the guide or the permission to cultivate it, to trust it, or even to listen to it. So when someone says you're wrong, you're so disconnected from your own truth, so cut off from your feminine power and spiritual wellspring, you say, oh, okay. And then you apologize. You apologize for getting it wrong. You apologize for inconveniencing the other person in front of you. You apologize for existing. You apologize for taking up space. And fuck that. Our body is always working for us, not against us. And we're so accustomed to the patriarchy that we've forgotten our own power. It's worked so well, this campaign of patriarchy, that we are accomplices in our own cage. When we're angry as hell, when we are the fury of a hurricane, we're told we're too much and we're helped to be subdued. When we're so sad, we can't stop weeping. We're told we're imbalanced and need medicating. When we can't stand our own life any longer, we're told we're insane, that everything is just as it should be. It's all perfect, really, and we're helped to numb. When we're everything, joyful, sad, angry, passionate, we're told we're hormonal or hysterical, and we're drugged. We're taught how to cope, how to keep going, and we're derailed from our own truth. We are accomplices in our own detachment, and we perpetuate the myth of the maiden, the silly girl, or the crazy fucking bitch. We're inadvertently and blatantly disconnected from our truth, our inner knowing, the inner wolf that sees all and hears all, and we are disconnected to the seat of our power. This culture and medical system is one of the patriarchy. It isn't set up or has the knowledge or even the inclination to help women be the seekers and the seers. They are meant to be. We don't honour their knowing of that which cannot be seen but felt. and we don't help them process to the point of discovery. Like birth, it's just all too messy, too ugly, and unnecessary. And then we wonder why we're numb, disconnected, full of discontent, why we feel like fractions of our full self, why we sometimes wonder whose life this is, why our dreams are haunted by the dark man, and why we're so fucking scared. The path to our truth is the most powerful path we can take. That's what I have.
Wow. That was channeled.
Well, it was just I'm like, fucking, I'm getting angry as I'm writing it. And then I'm thinking, I've got to pull some points out of this for a podcast. So here we are. And that's how I feel about it. And it makes me so fucking angry because I'm so intimately involved in women's lives over the course of my career. I get these beautiful windows that I think largely we don't get to see because we don't live intimately enough with families, women, couples anymore that we see beyond the facade. But I have this opportunity to see much deeper, and it just, I feel rorted by what this system does to women.
What really struck me was what you were saying. We're accomplices in our own cage.
Yeah, we are.
You know, and such an
because
example.
we agree with it, right?
Yeah. Because on some level, we've kind of traded our freedom and our choice and our voice for a perceived sense of safety. You know, and through the permission of others. And
also because over so many millennia, we're completely disconnected from our wellspring of the feminine. So God is real and he's a man. Goddess is not real. That's a figment of your imagination.
Well, it's a myth, right?
That's what I mean.
It's a mythical story.
So we're brought up in that. And then you add in the fact that every time you're told something and you really take it within you, you're not enough. You're a girl. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. You're not allowed to do that. You're no good at this. You're not worth that. You don't know how to read your body. You don't know, you can't trust your body. You can't read your signals. Your mind is lying. Every time we're told
you're so
that,
emotional.
Right.
You're so unstable.
Right. So if you think of it as a tree with super deep roots into the feminine wellspring, every time we're told one of those and we take it in, it snips a part of a branch. And in a mirrored exchange of that, our roots atrophy and disappear until we're left with almost no knowledge that we have a deep tap root and beyond that into our feminine power. So we're rootless, right? We have no deep sense of power and safety there. So when someone says you're not, we go, oh, no, you're right. I'm so sorry.
One of the most profound examples of this for me is birth, right? And it's women's choices in birth and pregnancy. Like I was at a birthday party yesterday, over on the weekend, and I was noticing what I was hearing, right? Because we filter conversations based on our values, and like we only perceive what we need to perceive, all of that kind of stuff. And so I kept hearing all of these conversations around me around, oh yes, I need to be induced, or they won't let me do this, or I have to go there. Like so much disempowering language and so much lack of power. But it was just like, oh, this is just how it is. Like your body,
we're accomplices in our own cage.
Your body is not yours anymore. It's being managed for you by a man or by a system governed by men.
But because we're so completely disconnected from
we don't even realize it.
Right. Exactly.
It's just like it's
brainwashing. It's like the most magnificent campaign ever because not only are women underhand, but they have completely eradicated any sense of real power and sense of safety within that. Like the feminine just doesn't exist.
No. But I actually think that as much as what's resulted now is women have cut off half of themselves to fit the culture we have, it's almost like Stockholm Syndrome in that we keep choosing that. We keep choosing our very perpetrator because on some level there's safety in that. You know, like there's safety in being held by something that actually disempowers us, but it's known. In fact, I even heard someone say that, oh, it's almost better the devil that you know than the one you don't, like in terms of the hospital that she was choosing. Like, fuck, is that what we've got to? Is that how disconnected we've got? That we won't even connect to the depths of what we desire and know is possible and that are yearning for to just subordinate to that? I've got a buddy. I'm getting all excited this week because I've got a meeting with Greg Hunt, the health minister, on Friday. And
have you really?
Me and a couple of midwife friends. And I just say to my husband, I'm like, we're going there to basically tell him to get his hands off our fucking uteruses. Because this is a prime example of whole policies being changed by a bunch of fucking men in suits who have no connection at all to the feminine. And their only knowledge might be of women birthing in a masculine system and being managed. Fuck that shit. But that is simply one example. And the other example we're going to dive into is, as you say, more broadly, the medical system, the other systems that organise our culture and how they completely have almost eradicated in many ways the feminine. And as we know, the feminine, incidentally, are all of the lowest, like the more feminine expressing roles in our culture, incidentally, the lowest paying roles in our culture.
We were having this conversation the other day, weren't we, with one of my beautiful friends who's a nurse, and we were talking literally about money, how much she's paid as a nurse.
Yeah.
And it was horrifying. It was horrifying.
It really was.
To think that our society literally can't function without the caregivers, the nurses, the teachers.
The childcare workers, the aged care workers.
Right. The carers.
Mothers. Yeah.
And yet, in a patriarchal society, they are the roles that are paid the least.
They're the lowest on the rung.
Yeah. And yet we literally couldn't function without them.
No.
But there's no...
But isn't that also just, if you think about, we have everything is expression of the organism. So we ultimately have the society and the constructs we have as an expression of our own selves. So if we as a culture have repressed the feminine and not made her safe and suppressed her power and suppressed her sovereignty
and don't value the carer,
then we get the society that mirrors that, which is where we find ourselves today.
Totally. So with that in mind, I want to share briefly with you my friend's story, which I have her permission to share, because I find it fascinating and interesting, and I wonder what other layers perhaps we might pull out via this discussion. So I have this beautiful friend, and she is a really gentle, soft, nurturing, she's a nurse, funnily enough, beautiful friend with 2 children. And for a number of years, she has struggled with mental health. And she has been in a system that has made sure that she's medicated, that she really wholeheartedly, deeply knew that in her body she couldn't cope unless she had something to help her cope. And that for her was the bridging the gap of these medications and a system of counselling and psychiatry and things like this to get her through. So this is a lot of years of pain, of tears, of dysfunctional relationships in many different ways. Certainly family of origin, but also intimate relationship. And over the last couple of years, it had probably started to deteriorate more, and there's a few of us going, is there something else going on here? And she's like, no, it's all good, and kept going to the counsellor, kept going to the psychologist, just kept going. Anyway, her entire world blew up a couple of weeks ago, maybe it wasn't even that long ago now, when she realised that her husband had been having an affair for about 3 years. And not only was that a huge blow, but had managed to have complete control over many, many aspects of their life that she was completely disempowered in. So where she was underempowered, he was massively overpowered. So when we started to work with her as a group, we came in with her to backtrack. Every single time that she would have a huge emotional reaction was because deep down, that was the time he was going off.
Wow.
And she could never rationalize, right, why she felt the way that she felt.
Yeah.
She couldn't say, you know, well, this is wrong and this is wrong. It was just, how do I keep going? There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. When in the end, there was nothing wrong with her. Her body, her entire psychology was trying to scream at her. But when she looked at that, there's some deep part of her that culturally and probably family of origin wise had made her own sense of power and truth so wrong that she couldn't trust it to even listen to it. That she couldn't even hear it. So she's in the maiden archetype, completely naive, right? There's no wild woman. There's no crone who's going to dispel that truth on you. There's no wolf mother who intuitively knows and smells danger. She had been culturally pacified into the maiden and had stayed there. And so when someone around her said, no, you know, just keep going, or there's something wrong with you, or, you know, this isn't functioning right, and wouldn't that be the go-to of her partner? Have you taken your meds today? And I don't know if I can even articulate it enough, but as we're backtracking her story, it was so strikingly obvious to the point where it broke my heart to hear how much her body and her entire emotional state and psychology was working for her. Because it's trying to wake her up. It's trying to get her to notice. It's trying to get her to honor herself and where she's at and say, listen, look, feel, what's here? Why is this here? Why is this disruption, this imbalance? What's the truth here? And the entire system around her was, let's just quell those. Let's, you know, bring you down into the grey range rather than the big highs and lows. And let's just numb you.
Cap that.
Let's just numb you in here so that you can toe the line. And it just breaks my heart that now we're here and 3 years down the track, there was 3 years of her life where her body was working for her, not against her. And I find it shocking that we are in a system that has managed to derail women from their truth so much that we cannot even hear it or make safe staying in it. We are not comfortable with the mess of emotions.
No.
Because we're unstable, right? We're the hysterical, crazy woman unless we're rational and calm.
Because that's what's celebrated, that's what's prized. That's how you work in the man's world, right?
There's no wild woman with that.
No.
There's no deep knowing and sensing like the wolf. There's no intuitive power. There's no deep-seated, you will not walk over me that way. There's none of that because you're subdued into playing nice. Just interrupting our little chat on how our culture pathologises women's truth to let you know that we have opened up registrations for our once-a-year annual retreat, which will be held in April, as well as our Loathing to Loving program, which is our signature 5-week 4-module course, and we have a live round for that coming up in April. So if you're really ready to dive in deeper, then please find out more at nourishingthemother.com.au.
Agreeable.
What a lovely little woman.
And it's a product of how we raise girls too, right? Like, good girl. Oh, isn't she just so sweet? You know, like we prize these traits that
gentle,
that
kind.
Yeah.
Just be kind.
Fuck.
I had a mum ask me that the other day, actually. She was experiencing some conflict with her daughter and socially, because socially stuff is like always massive at school, right? And I just asked her curiously, what advice are you giving her, and she's like, I just tell her above all else, you've got to be kind. Just be kind. Whatever you do, be kind. And I didn't say anything, but in my head I'm thinking, fuck me.
That's just like that conversation I had with you after a party that I'd gone to. And I'd watched this little girl bop Sylvie on the head, and the mother was like really challenged by it and had said the same thing to her daughter. Doesn't matter what you're feeling inside, you've just got to be nice to other people. You've just got to be nice. And I'm thinking, fuck, I'd rather my kid be authentic than nice. It's not always going to make friends, but they're going to stay connected to who they are. But we've been socialised, particularly as women, to be nice, be kind, placate, don't rock the boat.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And we have this sense that our bodies and our emotions are working against us. We're hormonal.
Yeah.
You know? Fuck the hormones. It's not the hormones.
I even think about that with pregnancy, right? Because I'm noticing I'm getting pissy, particularly with like the hot weather and like, I don't know, fucking everything depends on the day. But I'm like, part of that, yeah, sure, it's pregnancy hormones. But part of that is like my inward transition of mother, right? And what I'm being called to grow into. And there's a rub in that. And as we navigate that new path, and it's not always going to be nice. I'm not going to be kind.
No, well, the other interesting thing is obviously in pregnancy is everything's moving, right?
Yeah.
You're stimulating the liver gallbladder energy, which is anger.
Yeah.
So which is there, the anger is, as we know, galvanizing. So when you need to galvanize your organs into moving and a baby into moving, you're going to be channeling some anger.
And when I'm going to be laying down the law and boundaries and things, you know, like it's really supportive kind of energy for doing that. It's purposeful.
Yeah.
But, you know, how are we encouraged to have those conversations with our children in our culture about how purposeful we can, you know, see these things that, you know, aren't okay, like aggression or whatever. Like we're not, if we didn't need these things, they would have gone extinct, right? So let's stop fucking capping parts of ourselves off just to make other people feel okay.
Totally.
Which is what it is, because we're only trying to medicate because culturally it makes people uncomfortable, right? The bigness makes people uncomfortable. And we know it with our children, right? Like they set us up to feel how they feel. And when we're starting to tell them to calm down, it's because we're uncomfortable with it. But they need to express it. It's such a dance. And it's the same dance with, you know, like, you know, the same kind of medical system and the practitioner-client relationship. But the difference is we've been cultured to say that you're this and you're that, and we'll give you that label. And here it's just this scientific imbalance. It's got nothing to do with maybe what your psyche is.
This is what I'm fucking saying.
You know, like we're trying to reduce it down to some molecular fucking structure.
Yes.
Or some chemical or some study that someone wrote somewhere in an ivory tower that's applied to every single person.
And nothing
without looking at the spiritual wisdom and intuition and, you know, deep.
And how about just the truth of this woman? Like, where is that space in this world that is willing to listen as women wade their way through the waves of emotion that are in their body, that all are messengers, as they just allow a space for them to move, to listen, to be felt, to be heard, to be seen, to spew out the other side, no different to a wave, because they come and they go when you can stay open enough for them to do that. Otherwise, you're going to push that shit down, and where do you think that's going to end up? Further down you push it, the further down it's going to go.
And the bigger the eruption.
And for women, that's going to end up in the uterus, the yoni, and the hips. So we just keep shoving that shit down. It's where it goes. So where is the space that says you're not dysfunctional? There is function in the disharmony. There is function in the dysfunction. It's not dysfunction. It's fucking has a function.
Yeah.
So where is the space that says what is it? Not let's get rid of it.
Yeah. Or let's what's the word?
Pathologize.
Pathologize it. Let's not. We're so desperate to have some kind of diagnosis or some kind of label or something.
Because it's uncomfortable for us as well, right? Yeah. If you don't have a blueprint that makes emotions and, well, one, makes emotions safe, and two, has an understanding that emotions are simply messengers for your truth. If you don't understand that, you don't understand why they're there, and you have no place for them. And it's uncomfortable because historically it's been uncomfortable when you've displayed those in your family of origin, in the important relationships that you've had, and within your psyche and within your structure, you've said that's not safe. So when we're, as you were saying, Bridget, when we subordinate to someone around us, if it makes them uncomfortable, we will find a way to make it uncomfortable for us so we don't have to go there in order for us to just be safe and not rock the boat.
Yeah, and it definitely is family of origin. It's a pattern that will continue to play out until we look at it, until we find the wisdom in it, until we break beyond it.
So I think about my friend, and I think about the amount of time she would have shown up on a doctor's table.
Yeah.
And the amount of time she would have been told, there's just something wrong with you. We just need to work out how to help you keep it under wraps. And I keep thinking, what? You know, and her symptoms just kept kind of getting bigger. So this is the thing as well, right, is drugs can do only so much, but we are more powerful than the biochemistry. We're more powerful than that. So her symptoms would get bigger.
Well, that's
what used to work no longer does.
Just like, you know, you develop antibiotic resistance, right? Like it's the same shit. So she's just managed finding a way, her system's finding a way to get louder and louder and louder.
Her fucking truth. Trying to wake her up because she has this deep, you still have the taproot into the feminine power, right? So she has this deep-seated wild woman that isn't fully integrated in her being, who is screaming at her, wake up, see what's to be seen, feel what's to be felt. Change and honour who you are as a sovereign core. Stop shrouding it in all these layers of shame and suppression and making you wrong.
And I mean, I've got to say, this kind of reflection that we are doing on your friend is a reflection for all of us.
Oh, that's what I mean. That's why I'm passionate about it.
This is all of our stories, right?
Exactly.
And it is meaningful to you and to us to listen to this because we are all mirrors of it in some form. It just looks different.
Exactly.
The pathology just looks different.
Exactly. I'm so glad you say things better than I do.
I do not. I so don't. But I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, because you're saying with passion because it's your story too.
That's exactly what I mean.
And I'm responding because it's my story too.
Yeah.
You know?
So great.
Because this is where we find ourselves. And if you think about, you know, the collective consciousness and where the feminine sits now, there is a roar coming out.
Yeah, so
because we're fucking over it.
Yeah, there's a feminine pendulum swing.
Yeah. And so this is simply all of our stories through one woman's story.
Yes. And that's how I had asked her, was I found this part of your story so powerful as a teaching tool. That's why I had asked if we could share it, which she had, you know, really, I'm really grateful to her to be willing to do that because I do think there's huge power in just, you know, no different to Women Who Run with the Wolves. If you haven't read that book, fucking read it because this is what she's talking about. This is what she's talking about.
It is.
The wild woman, the wolf, is who the wild woman is. The intuitive one, the knowing, the snarling, the one who knows who you are the minute she's laid eyes on you. That woman. Not the one that goes, oh, I'm just being silly. Oh, I don't need to listen to that. Oh, that's just a funny feeling. Just move away from it. It's okay. Not that one. The one who goes, I see you.
The one who feels. The one who feels that energy.
I see you and I know. Because she knew on a really deep level, she knew. And her dysfunction was simply a process of waking her up. And we can't judge time frames. We can't judge someone else's denial because we are all denying something to the same extent.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah.
And if you're charged on someone else's denial you got a lot of denial going on yourself.
Yeah, it's really true.
And you cannot, it is not for you or me or anyone to judge when someone's right time to wake up is. There, you can't.
No.
Because everything is in divine timing.
And also, I mean, the hardest thing, one of the hardest things ever in your life is to choose yourself. Right?
Because, and when do you have enough behind you to do that?
Yeah.
To make that leap?
I mean, and what moved me so much about you telling me this story first before we shared it here was how much the timing had to be right for her to feel held enough.
Right.
to go there.
Yeah. So this incredible experience happened where, you know, and I think through so many layers of these years of, I would say problems isn't the word, but layers of denial and trying to make okay what was not okay on a really deep level for her. There was ways of her feeling left out of a group or socially not quite fitting in because there's a bit of judgment going on.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of projection going on. And there's all, because when you're in a group, right, there's always mirrors and projection and shadow. Everyone's like just bouncing off
pushing
of each other.
buttons.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And yet when this all happened, she was literally surrounded in a circle by a group of women. And each one of those women present, and in the larger group beyond those that were physically present with her, have all picked up a role for her. So there's the woman who's like a PI, you know, and there's the woman who knows how to deal with finances.
That's a private investigator.
Yeah, private investigator. And there's the woman who knows how to deal with finances and get her on track. And there's the woman who knows how to deal with a lawyer. And there's the woman who knows how to deal with breakups and exes.
Look for rentals. Or...
There's the woman who knows how to work out living spaces. And I played the role of working out food and did a meal train. And there's, you know, the woman who went to the government to sort out all the government stuff with her. You know, like I was blown away and fascinated by the way in which it's almost like women in labour, the more intense that pain gets, the closer in those women come. And each one of them plays a reflective role because we're a whole, right? You like are a universe.
Like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And so within her, reflected in every single one of those women, was an aspect of her that as yet wasn't empowered, but through these women holding her hand will be. Like, that's amazing. And she chose the perfect partner who reflected all of her disempowered parts in order for her to get Jack enough that her power was calling her to empower them. And she's found herself in a reflective group of women for whom each of them has a mirror of that. Like, that's fucking profound.
And for them, each of their roles in empowering her is empowering themselves, right? Because no one grows alone. Like, that's a collective. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
And beautiful.
Yes. But bringing it back to our podcast, I just am floored by how much, and I think of myself in this when I think of this story, is just how much we swallow another's truth because it's far too scary to own our own. Because if we really owned our own truth, what would have to change? And how fucking scary is that? Which is where she found herself. How fucking scary is that? To literally have every aspect of your life completely ripped apart.
Yeah.
You have to be fucking ready for that shit.
Yeah.
And you can't judge someone else's timing of that.
No.
But I also don't think it's a coincidence that she spent a year in circle with me.
Oh, I said that to you. I said, yeah, and even the women around her and how they stepped in, you facilitated that. Like, you facilitated.
Well, I don't want to take that much.
Well, I feel like you've helped guide their ability to play those roles. You know, because you pave a way for what's possible.
I just think I create a space in which women have an opportunity to know themselves more deeply. And that sounds so fucking lofty. But after, you know, I'm on to, 18 months of running circles now, and I am floored by the amount that women process, know, and therefore change in their lives by me doing nothing but turning up to create the space. Or that's how I perceive it. I don't do anything. I just turn up as me and I say, here's how we're going to move today. And they create enough intention because they know the healing that comes from it just to show up. They don't come with an agenda. They just show up. And 9 times out of 10, most of them go, I didn't even know what I was going to say today. And yet, here we are.
And all this came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the intention with which there is nowhere else in this world that says, come and listen to you. Because I see your wild woman. I see your truth. I know you have an intelligence far greater than anything in a white coat.
And all of those feelings that need to come out are safe here.
Yeah, and purposeful. And I will love them. We will all love them because they are relevant to all of us. And that's the gift of creating the space and the intention to do that. Now, I'm not saying it's the only way to access it. I think you can access that in different ways. I think people find spiritual pathways and yoga and retreats and meditation and, you know, women's circles is one facet. And we hear similar stories in our online Loathing to Loving course and, you know, within our members group. There's just creating the space and safety on which you stack a knowledge of emotions being purposeful and dysfunction having function. I think it allows women to relax their defenses and their subordinations enough to listen to what the wisdom is, because we go, oh, why is that? But unless you're willing to relax those defensive structures, you don't know the why. But the wisdom is there. No one hands you the wisdom. Wisdom is only wisdom when you've earned it, when you've worked it out yourself.
Yeah.
But we will ask you the questions for you to reveal it to yourself, and we will create the safety to relax around that. I think that is the gift that you and I both give. It's just one of those stories.
We've called our upcoming retreat a spa for the psyche.
Yeah. Because it is.
It is. Because you're being given permission to immerse fully in the myriad of what your psyche is seeking to reveal to you.
And just let go. Where else do you have the opportunity to just let go, be as you are? No pretense, no shame, no fear. Well, there might be fear, but, you know, in a safe space, it's different. Isn't it? So I guess, I don't know, what do you want to leave our listeners with?
I just think that there's so much in this. I think I'm going to have to go back and listen to it again. But I just really want to remind women to compel yourselves to make safe the uncomfortable feelings that are speaking to you. You know, the rage, the you know, instability of your emotions at times, and you know, instead of explaining it away as PMS or I'm just hormonal or what's here for you, because it's there for a reason. And yeah, it's kind of uncomfortable to make space for that, but I also, it's like we come back all the time to our kids, like we want all emotions to be okay and to all feelings to have a place, and you know, we can really only do that for them to the degree that we can do it for ourselves. And you know, if that's motivation enough, then let that be it. Otherwise, connect to your roots, connect to the wisdom, allow yourself.
I think it's easy to say that. I actually think, particularly when you're in this gig of motherhood, you actually need to commit to showing up somewhere.
Yeah, I guess I take that for granted that we kind of to do that by relationship to each other and obviously to the tribe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But we still create intention to show up for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, how hard is it just to catch up with a friend?
Yeah.
Well, even when you occasionally manage to catch up with a friend, you're not going as deeply as that. You actually need to invest in a space and a time that you are required to show up for.
Yeah.
Knowing that you will face resistance, you won't want to go, you'll be too tired, the kids won't want to sleep.
Yeah. Someone will be sick, you know.
You have to still show up like it's work.
Yeah.
Because
imagine if we put that on this, right? Like you show up to work kind of rain, hail or shine, right? Like you just have to.
It's your livelihood, right?
It's your livelihood. What if this was just as important as that? What if this work of being in a safe space to feel held, to go to the depths, to compel yourself to look without judgment.
And without even waiting for there to, in inverted commas, be an issue.
Yeah.
Because we're always processing shit.
Yeah.
And even when you think there's nothing really going on, that's why I have a monthly circle, right, bitch? Because every month you think, oh, yeah, I'm all right, I'm going okay. Nope. Every time I think, wow, I didn't know that was there. There it is.
And sometimes, you know, like I can be in that space and not even think anything's going to come out, and then it'll just open the floodgates.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because there was something there.
But if you don't create an intentional practice, being you show up regardless of if you feel like it or not, then there's a lot that gets missed and a lot that gets layered, and it just stacks. It doesn't disappear. So I really urge you to find your power, trust your intuition, and get to know your intuitive wild woman in whatever way is an entry point for you. Because unless you're willing to listen to your truth, I'm not sure how you have a true north compass on who you are and where you're going and what you're worth. We want our children to believe that they are sovereign and worthy. It's us who shows them that, who paves a path to create permission for that. Free of subordinations, and knowing that even when everyone, it's the bloody, what's that story? You know, the emperor's new clothes. You know that story? You know, the tricksters create the, birthday outfit, but in the end it's nothing, and he's wearing nothing and he's nudie down the street, and everyone's going, oh yes, you know, he's amazing, because no one,
so lovely.
Yeah, because no one wants to be caught out as being the stupid one. Yeah. So we all just tell, it's
groupthink at its finest.
Right. And my truth might be calling to me, but I'm just going to go along because it's too dangerous to stick my neck out and be different. And then the child who was without those subordinations because she's not yet learnt them says, hang on a minute, he's nude.
Yeah.
And just her shouting out the truth, like you creating an intentional practice to listen, is enough to wake all the other people up around her, which is really just all your other aspects of your psyche.
Yeah.
Because you are awake and not awake in equal amounts.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
We're conscious and unconscious.
Yeah.
But, we can certainly cultivate a practice to bring as much integrated and consciousness to our full self as we can. And in doing that, we live a life that is more full of feeling and meaning.
Yes.
Create the intention.
So on that note, we do have a live round coming up of Loathing to Loving program, and we are running our first retreat for the year, perhaps our only retreat for the year.
I think it's going to be the only one. You're having a baby, man.
Yeah, I know, yeah. So I think it probably will just be our only retreat for the year, which will be really, really special. Can we say we were having it yet? Or not yet?
No, you could, yeah. I haven't thought about it, but
I'm actually really excited.
I actually should post that, yeah. No, go.
We're having it in a teepee.
Yeah, like a real fair dinkum
teepee. Which is super exciting.
Yes, which is situated on the wetlands, which traditionally would have tribally been a women's place of ceremony and healing. So pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's happening in April in Bayside, Melbourne, or kind of Seaford. Yeah. So if you're local and would love to join us for that, we'd absolutely love you to be part of that circle with us. Or if you're not so local, of course, Loathing to Loving is a wonderful place to come to unravel some more layers and feel in a really safe, held space of women doing the work.
Yeah, and it is a continuous, like Loathing to Loving is still a continuous showing up. Because there's a couple of live rounds a year, which is 5 weeks worth of facilitation. Yes, within a group, but within a group you get group learning too, as opposed to self. So our retreat is more facilitated in-person experience of 3 hours. Loathing to Loving is group facilitation over the course of 5 weeks, a couple of times a year. Yeah. And there's modules of content that you can work your way through and come back to as often as you like. So you can find out more on the website, nourishingthemother.com.au, and just need to click on Loathing to Loving. So, Bridge.
Connect with you, Jules.
Oh, I thought you were going with your tagline. Good point. We need to do that.
We do.
It's thepleasurenutritionist.com.
And with me, it's suburbansandcastles.com. Remember to nourish the woman to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
And before we leave you, I just want to jump in and let you know that if you're not quite ready for a retreat or a 5-week online program, we do have our Relationship Rescue product online, which is a series of 4 video modules, which is a wonderful way to dive into the relationship stories that you might hold and to get some great tools to pave a new way.
And with that, at the moment, for the next month, we have a sale where you can also get in on the relationship webinar.
Yes, which is a 2-hour facilitated workshop with us. So it's a great opportunity to both get that content and get some practical application of it.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.